feeling depressed and carrying a lot of guilt from my teenage years. I, 30M, have been having a rough couple of years. I graduated from high school in 2012 in NJ and had a really rough time letting go of high school for the first year. I stayed at home the first year, went to a community college very nearby, and was with people I had just graduated with all the time. And to make things even more difficult for myself, I tried to keep very close tabs on my friendships with those who were still in high school to the point that I was visiting the high school almost daily until the administration asked me not to anymore. I eventually flunked out of my community college, leaving with only one course worth of credits to my name. I was offered the opportunity to move across the country with my parents and almost turned it down, but, at the last minute, gave in, and it was one of the best things that could have ever happened to me. I went back to school after a year and made wonderful friends, got involved in an amazing theater program, and stuck around that social situation for about 7 years until 2020. As my college friends and I began to graduate, it became very clear to us all that it was time to go on our separate paths, but we all still found plenty of time for each other. The people I got involved with in college helped me grow a lot in my understanding of myself in social situations and the power that I have, as a cis man, to set the tone for, to empower, and protect my mostly female friends. I stood by my girls through breakups, dumpings, other heartbreaks, etc. I've always had more female friends growing up and never really identified with traditional masculinity, but it wasn't until college that I truly started speaking up and out about social issues that affected my friends and family members, even if they didn't affect me. The year before COVID hit, my parents had moved back to our hometown in NJ while I stayed across country. I lived in a one-bedroom apartment, and my parents continued to help support me while I worked on finding a stable enough job to pay for everything myself. They had come to visit for a couple months in February 2020, and luckily for me, I had them through quarantine, but I had to go back with them to my hometown that June, while everything was still shut down. With all of that time being unable to actually go out and do anything, I spent a lot of time walking around my hometown, past my high school, revisiting the ghosts of my teenage years and reflecting and reopened myself to a lot of trauma. Trauma that I'd been carrying and suppressed, and that I'd caused others. I'd been bullied since I was in 6th grade, constantly having the F-slur thrown at me and speculation about my sexuality being a constant topic. No matter where I went, friends would quickly turn on me when it was socially convenient. I remember a friend having a limo party for the last day of school and not inviting me, but then stopping the limo at my house just so she could show it off. I had a girl who had a crush on me and would constantly ask me out, and she would not take no for an answer, to the point that she threatened to have another friend of hers who I'd never even met say that I put my hands down her shirt if I didn't agree to at least try to go out with her. In middle school, I had a very short temper. An incident that stands out is getting into an argument with one of my girlfriends that was so bad. It caused her to leave school for a couple of years because she was afraid of me. When we got older, 18, we were around each other again due to mutual friends, and the vibes seemed okay, and our mutual friends even told me she said she could see how much I'd grown up since middle school. But I still carry guilt for that. When I was a freshman in high school, I, along with one other freshman boy, had been put into a gym class with upperclassmen because of an anomaly in our schedules. During this time, I was relentlessly teased by the older boys. The bullying began as verbal, using slurs, etc., and eventually spiraled into rumors about my gender identity. I was, on multiple occasions, forced to strip nude, had my body touched, etc. This continued for another year, until my abusers graduated. I had reported it multiple times to staff and administration and was always met with, "Well, how are you reacting to the bullying? Are you making it worse for yourself by how you react?" I'd always had trouble fitting in with other guys, but looking back now, I realize how much this shaped my interactions with the rare guys who would try to be my friends. The early 2010s was a time of vague sexual harassment as humor between friends, with stupid stuff like gay chicken, and I would often try and do that kind of stuff with my guy friends, whether they liked it or not, just because it seemed funny at the time. I was a very toxic friend, across the board. Very jealous when others would receive opportunities, or when I noticed them making friends with other people, or when I wouldn't be included in plans. I was an emotional manipulator, I would start fights and cry for no reason. I played the victim a lot. I would be very demanding of my younger friends because I was trying to uphold them to unreasonable standards of friendship when I should have just let them be high school kids while I was in college. Understandably, I lost a lot of those friends, and at the time, that was pretty painful because I didn't understand why. Now, I absolutely do. I didn't look past the end of my own feelings, my own pain, my own frustration, and make better choices on how to treat people or react. As an adult, I'm absolutely kicking myself for having been such a shitty friend and person and having done things that could easily be considered illegal. I can't speak for the people in question. I don't know how they feel about my actions in hindsight, as none of the friendships ended as a direct result of my physical actions. I don't know if they view them as a violating trauma or if it was just silly, stupid kid stuff at the time. I would really hope people would either give me the grace of us having been young and the time that has passed since then, or that others look at it as a live and let die situation. But obviously, I'm not entitled to that grace, nor do I expect it. As I said before, I have a much greater understanding now, as an adult, as a man, as an older friend, as a person, of my ability to set the tone for, to empower and protect others. Not just my girlfriends, but anyone. The nonprofit Rain has become a very important organization for me, and I give to them financially as much as I can, even organizing small fundraisers for my birthday. I'm much more careful about how I interact with others, both verbally and physically, and would never want to put someone in the position where they are being laughed at for feeling uncomfortable. I spoke to one high school friend, one who I've had a good relationship with since I graduated, about a situation she was in at a party we were both present at where she was pressured by a pair of guys to flash her breasts. I was present during that instance, and I did not look at her body, but it still happened in my presence. In our more recent conversation, I apologized to her for not standing up for her, as an older male friend, in that moment, something that I would absolutely do now. I'm carrying so much guilt for so many stupid things that I either said or did because they seemed funny at the time, or because I was reacting without any thought. For years, I've thought about reaching out and apologizing to people, but I would hate to have my apology be the reason someone is forced to face any sort of trauma again. I would only do so if I knew for sure that an apology would be beneficial for them as well. I just do not want to put out bad into the world anymore. There's enough bad out there in the world already. I've probably already put out enough, and it's time to suck the venom out. As an adult, I'm living back in NJ, in a lovely small town that's about a 2-hour drive away from my hometown. I'm struggling to find a stable job, let alone even start a functional career, and I'm living paycheck to paycheck because of how bad my job is, despite living with family. I'm beginning to feel a bit spiritually unwell or depressed. All I do on my days off is sleep all day and stay up all night, and no, I can't even find an overnight job. I don't know anyone in this town except a small selection of coworkers and my family. I try to remind myself I have a good life in comparison to a lot of other people, and that I'm not a bad person. I'm not evil. I'm not wicked. I've made bad choices in the past, and I'm always wanting to put forth the energy to make better ones for myself and others. I won't call myself a good person, but rather a person in progress, inspired by Jamila Jamil referring to herself as a feminist in progress. I'm actively learning better and unlearning bad, but I'm still trying to find some light to lead me back to a positive mental health place, and one of my greatest passions is acting and filmmaking. I was a huge theater nerd in high school, and everyone knew it. I went to college for it, and that's how I made most of my college friends, but my local area seems to not have many opportunities for any of that. As such, I've thought about going into writing and making YouTube content that I could work with local actors and meet new people and bring some joy back into my life. But with the rise of cancel culture on social media and whatnot, I'm afraid my teenage past will come back to haunt me. I'm not so deluded to think that anything I create would become Hollywood levels of successful and famous, but I'm just worried about putting my heart into creating something and then, I don't know,